Today I'm going to tell you how you should get free money. Now when I said you, I don't mean everyone. I mean people who make below the poverty line, and this introduces the idea of the universal basic income.
What are those?
Before we get into the universal basic income, I'm going to start with a little story that was released recently in an article that I have in the description below that talks about Charles Wells. Charles Wells is a person who works in an airport, Reagan International Airport, and he has to travel back and forth every day, but the minimum wage is not enough for him to even sustain his job or his life. He looked in his wallet and he had a total of $5 left. If he didn't make any tips that day, which is a usual case, he wouldn't have enough money to even get home. He would have enough money to go to work and pay for the transportation to work since it was $270, but that would leave him with about $230 left, which is not enough to cover the transportation home.
Stop! He's already dead!
His story, like many others, describes why the minimum wage right now is not sustainable. Wages have stayed stagnant since the 1980s, and the minimum wage especially is at an all-time low, basically, since the creation of the minimum wage, and it's been the same, but it has not adjusted for inflation. Of course, there are policies in place to raise it to about $12, which is still not enough to make you even live your life, or to $15, which is the standard minimum wage, but that isn't even tied to inflation. Today I'm going to offer an alternative, something that gets rid of the idea of a minimum wage, something that gets rid of Social Security, something that also gets rid of healthcare and other government bureaucratic programs. That is called the universal basic income. And the universal basic income basically says that every person is entitled by the right to life to a certain income that is above the poverty level. This basic income will grant people basically free money for just being alive. It is a human right and something that is necessary for us to live. Finland is the newest country that's going to be holding a referendum on whether they want universal basic income or not. It was already held in Switzerland, and Switzerland actually denied it and said no to the universal basic income.
Now you fucked up! Now you fucked up!
But this is something that I think we should try in the United States, and it has been tried before in a county in Canada. And in this county in Canada, it has been shown through data that life in this county has improved significantly until the Conservatives went in there in the early 1980s and decided to repeal it.
Now you fucked up! Now you fucked up! Now you fucked up! Now you fucked up!
Now, the first response many people have to the idea of the basic income is that, well, why do I work? Why do I want to do any work? And this is all based on the false idea that was perpetuated by the anti-welfare crowd back in the early 90s, the late 90s, and the 80s as well, that said that poor people inherently spend all their money and then they're really bad with money and that's why they're poor. However, this sort of victim complex is blaming the poor people for that reason and then appealing to this false idea of the social ladder, which really isn't a thing. Usually it's been shown that if you're born rich, you stay rich, whereas if you're born poor, you stay poor. The myth of social mobility is something that allows people to just believe that it's the poor people's fault that they don't have enough money. The second response to this is that statistics show that people, when they get money and stuff like this, they actually use it for social goods. When we see the experiment when it was tried in Ontario, the amount of people who dropped out of the workforce was actually very small, about 10%. Now, what did they do when they dropped out of the workforce? They applied to college or stayed home as mothers. This did not significantly reduce their productivity in society. In fact, it allowed people to eventually become more productive because their investment they had in education, something a lot of people don't even have access to right now. So overall, it created a lot of social goods and improved the life of many people in the society at the time because it gave them access to opportunities they did not have before, namely education, which is something that gives people the tool to succeed in life and actually create actual social mobility, not the myth of social mobility that is part of the myth of the American dream.
But wait! There's more!
A lot of people, when they do not have enough money, the first thought that comes to their mind whenever they say, oh, here's free money, is that what can I actually do with this to improve my life? They're not happy with staying poor or staying not doing work. The only people who think that are people who are rich and say, well, why do I need to work? Because they do not have the experiences that other people have when they do not have enough money or do not have enough money to live. The last point I want to make overall about this is that we should not see this as a colorblind issue. Obviously, there are disparities between Black Americans, Asian Americans, white Americans, and people of all different races in terms of the income gap. And most people who do end up in the low-wage jobs are people of color.
No No shit.
And this is something that can really help fix and bridge the gap between white and people of color in the United States. It's a common statistic to show that a common white person will inherit $114,000 in wealth from their parents, whereas a person of color will have $14,000.
Well, now that is some fucked up shit.
That big gap can be bridged if we have something like a universal basic income that allows everyone to earn a certain amount of money to improve their lives and use the ladder of social mobility. And it also gets rid of the loopholes that people use in the system. For example, from the STAR program, Donald Trump earned a few $100s.
Man, this is some bullshit!
Which is kind of crazy to think about, that he has more than enough money to survive on his own. The kind of inefficiencies that we have now was really bad, and we can replace all of that in like the social security system. Like, for example, why does Warren Buffett get money from social security, right? We can efficiently use that to spend on people who actually need the money, in addition to probably not spending a couple of $1 trillion on unnecessary wars. So don't complain that, we're gonna go bankrupt because we don't have enough money. No, you are spending your money incorrectly on wars of aggression rather than here, the people who need it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and also share it with your friends if you think they'll enjoy it too. And I'll see you tomorrow. Every other comment you made based on all of these issues, so much so that you don't want to at least acknowledge that there are cases in which there are unreasonable arrests.